Kathy Willis as superintendent. She has met or exceeded expectations in all categories and quickly won the respect of the community. From everyone I have spoken to, she is highly regarded, and I have not heard a negative word uttered against her. Her ability to reach out and communicate with all constituencies is a major strength, and she has changed the environment of the superintendent's office for the better. I'm looking forward to working with her in the coming years. Just some general comments. A couple of the areas where and I guess we should mention, we have copies of this for the press. I shall get those after the meeting. So just make sure that we'll get those to you. A couple of the areas I ranked as meeting expectations, I felt I didn't have enough information at this point to rank Kathy higher, and perhaps next year I'll have that information, especially in the areas of HR. However, I'm seeing a little more of that, especially being involved with contract negotiations with Kathy, and that's been a great experience. And if I had filled this out after the para negotiations, I might have ranked you higher in that area because you did a great job with that. The other area that I just wanted to touch on was educational leadership. And I guess my feeling is that being the first year, it's hard to measure where we are. So I'm looking at maybe next year when we start to see what the influence of new programs and new new things that Kathy's put in place with her administrative team. I'll have maybe an easier job, or it'd be a little bit easier to measure that.
Thank you.
So that's why with that I had to meet expectations on the educational leadership. But I said overall, as Cliff mentioned, there's been no hiccup, and I think that's especially significant because we didn't go from one permanent superintendent to another permanent superintendent. We actually had, Dr. Manville in here for a year, so we had an interim who basically kept, was kind of the glue in the middle of keeping the ship together here. But I think that made it a little more difficult coming in when an interim superintendent had been here. And Keith did a great job.
Yep.
But you're really going 3 superintendents within a year and a half, 2-year period, and I think that made it extremely difficult for the new permanent superintendent coming in.
Thank you, Mel. Mike, go ahead.
I wanted to comment also on the educational leadership. I did put does not meet expectations, but I really wanted a NA box more than anything.
We talked about that earlier.
And unfortunately there wasn't one. So it really doesn't reflect your performance as much as I don't have enough data to really evaluate that. And in the next coming years, we'll have that data. So I hope you take it hard. But
we talked about actually before you came in about an NA box because in some of these areas, some of us might feel not informed enough to make a decision.
Yeah, and I think that I commented earlier that this is our first year on this,
right.
and I think that as a member of the evaluation committee, I will attempt to modify the form so that next year there will be that place where that if you have insufficient information, you can check that box,
right.
Rather than have to force you into Never Land.
I
Go ahead,
just
Mike.
wanted to say one more thing. I personally was at the announcement of the hiring of Kathleen, and I was one of the first people that went up to her and said, and I wasn't on the school committee yet, and I said I was hoping that she was going to be hired the entire time, and I really continue to believe that. I think she's very organized, very goal-oriented, like I stated, and really is just unbelievable to work with. No complaints.
Karen.
Great. I want to thank Cliff for working with me on this form, and also Kathy, because as a committee, the 3 of us worked very hard to think about how we could do an evaluation. This is not easy to do because the school committee, our role is to hire and fire the superintendent. That's one of our jobs. Well, how do we evaluate the performance of the superintendent? And there are literally hundreds of forms that you could look at out there, and quite a few that just seemed really off the wall, and others that seemed like there was a little bit more to be expected. So we tried to strive for a happy medium that would be a way for us to reflect on areas that are generally around the realm of the school committee. That being said, there are some areas like HR that I think what we were trying to get from the evaluation was more overall broad perception, not specifics. And I think there's also a time factor here, so we'll think about that when we go back to the committee. That being said, I'm not going to read my my comment because it's out there in open public, but all I do want to say is that being superintendent in such a high achieving district is not easy. And we have very high expectations for performance. I think the comments of the committee as I put this composite together, it was striking to me how the committee really thought about specific instances of performance that really reflected these different areas of achievement. And I think, you know, my personal expectations have been totally blown away in that, you know, I just felt like you'd need more time to get acclimated to this community, and it's not easy to do. You know, I've lived in North Reading for 5 years, and it's extremely difficult to acclimate, you know, coming from somewhere else, and you don't quite know where to fit in. And there's a lot of challenges in this district. Our budget is not, you know, a happy topic every year, and we've had to implement some new unfunded mandates. Yay! And you've met those challenges and met them well. And I also think that your teamwork ethic is extremely remarkable. There are quite a few superintendents in Massachusetts who do not ascribe to that. They have a really more top-down approach. And when you talk to other school committees in other districts, that's, you know, you sort of hear stories about how things are done. We have something very special in this district. I think the school committee, when we did our evaluation of ourselves, we talked about how we work together as a team. That has translated into the district, into the administrative team, as well as within district. And that example, I think, is set very well for our students. And that, to me, is tied to student achievement, which is, to me, the biggest priority apart from safety and health of our student body. So I appreciate that, and I'm really looking forward to what's to come. So thank you.
I want to thank the evaluation committee because this is a great start.
Yes.
You guys did a terrific job in getting this kicked off. We haven't done this type of evaluation in the past, Mel, right?
Never.
And I'm going back 12 years, and what we used to do was look at the goals that we had set for the superintendent.
And this meets public meeting law.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, that too, which is good. But my concern is that Kathleen has set the bar so high, there's no place to go but down.
I know, that is a problem.
I don't know where you go from here. But again, you know, I look back at some of the comments Mike and Karen made under that category D, personnel and human resources, and in my mind, I think I kind of overlooked a little bit the hiring she had to do for the administrative team,
Right.
which was incredible because you come into a district as the superintendent, you don't have that many support people to begin with, and then half of them are gone, all for good reasons.
Right.
So Kathy had to go through that and hire a number of different administrators. And from what we can see so far, and I still think it's early, but it seems like the people she hired are all doing a great job. But it's still early as far as that's concerned. My final comments were, superintendent has exceeded expectations in those categories I've had an opportunity to observe firsthand. She's done an excellent job of communicating with the school committee, faculty, staff, elected officials, parents, and advocacy groups. Superintendent has done an outstanding job of moving forward the secondary school building project and formulating a level services budget. She's acted in a professional, conscientious, and attentive manner dealing with all issues and groups. And I don't think you can overlook how much work coming right out of the gate the secondary school building project was. Because, you know, as much as we had done preceding the time Kathy got here, the real work almost was contemporaneous with her arriving here. It really was. That's when things really started to heat up, and she had to just, with everything else she had to do, I'm not sure how she does everything.
Well, let's remember there was actually a hairpin curve in the secondary school building project because we found the mystery letter that was sent to us saying, hey, if you want to go for a combined project, okay, and that changed
Well,
like 3 or 4 months into her.
It certainly clarified the direction
Right.
of the project. But again, I think she's done a great job. It's clear that the school committee is very pleased with her performance, and you know, the honeymoon's over.
That's a long honeymoon, a year? Wow.
But she's done a great job. Kathy, did you want to comment?
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to thank each school committee member for their very thoughtful responses to each of the sections of the evaluation document. I really do appreciate the feedback. It's very important. I consider myself a lifelong learner, and part of learning is feedback. And closing that loop of learning and feedback and learning and feedback is very important to me. And you are 5 bosses. I have 5 bosses, and it's very important for me to hear back from each one of you. I think it's very interesting in that most of your expectations are very similar. So you work very well as a team, and you started working well as a team long before I got here. So I do appreciate that kind of culture that I have been very fortunate to come into, because it mirrors what my expectations are for the way that we should function as an educational organization. And it is through collaboration and teamwork that we will advance and achieve at very high levels. And you were able to reflect some of that thinking in the evaluation. As I said at graduation on Friday night, I really have loved every minute of my first year as superintendent in North Reading. It has been challenging, it has been rewarding. I have learned so much, and I know I still have something to learn. So I look forward to working together with you in the years ahead.
I just
Thank
have
you.
one more comment. I know Kathy said this herself a number of times. We talked about the administrators that had to be replaced and hired over the last year since Kathy's been here. But I do want to say that the administrators that were here, I think, did a great job in getting and helping Kathy get up to snuff on a lot of things, and
Absolutely.
supporting her, and helping her get acclimated to the position here in North Reading. So I just want to give them a lot of credit as well.
I have another comment.
Sure.
Yeah, Kathy just said that she loved every minute. She's had a whole lot of love because she put in a whole lot of minutes.
I was gonna say, she's I guess we get spoiled by the number of hours that as superintendents put in this district, but.
Yeah, because the preceding superintendent did the same
Exactly.
thing. Yeah.
And I think that's part of reflection of the great superintendents we've had, but it's also a reflection of the fact that we don't have a whole lot of money and a whole lot of support staff, and the superintendent has to be there a lot of the time. She's also been in community, she mentioned community events, sporting events, the track meet where she saw me doing a great job keeping people out of the wrong gate, making sure they went to the right gate, got me a bottle of water. She's been a big part of the community, and I think that helps and will help going forward in terms of meeting educational goals, because if you have the support of community, it helps you to put your programs into place to improve learning, and I think that's been great.
All right, so that's, there's no other formality that has to be take place here. We've had a discussion about the evaluation. I think the process worked out very, very well. And I think the next step is for us to sit down with Kathy regarding her contract and salary, et cetera. So that'll be the next thing. Yeah, that's the next thing
That's you.
that we'll do.
That's you.
We'll schedule a meeting to do that. Okay, moving on.
Jerry, I have an agenda item.
Yes.
We have a Bruins score.
4-0 Bruins.
Are you serious?
Wow.
1-0.
I thought